the live stream where your mind actually matters. My name is Simon, and hosting the show with me today is Adam and Samad. You'll notice that Tak isn't here with us today, and he's been in a bit of a basketball injury, so we wish him a speedy recovery, but he will be with us again from next week. So, send out your love to him on the chat. As you know, we'll be live monitoring our chats and comments on YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, and Instagram, so please send in your questions or simply tell us what matters are on your mind. Today we've got a hell of a show for all of you. We've got a lot of ground to cover. We'll be starting off with the Supreme Court nomination of Amy Coney Barrett and the implications that that nomination will have if it gets through the Senate, and the implications that will have also on potentially a reversal of Roe versus Wade. So we'll cover that. We'll talk a little bit about the White House COVID outbreak and how that might have started, and then how Trump and Melania, Donald Trump and Melania Trump have contracted that, and also his hospitalization and coming out of that. We want to talk a little bit about some other aspects of COVID-19. And if we get some time, we can talk a little bit about the economy, race relations, and possibly climate change. So we'll see how much of that we get to cover today. But as I said, please send in your comments and questions on YouTube. So I think we'll kick off with that. We'll start with the first topic, the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett.
I keep getting confused with like her name as well. Like all these people with three names. Like calm down. Just have a normal name like the rest of us, you know? Like
why do you have to be so extra for?
Exactly. Now the great thing about all the topics that we're kind of talking about today are all in reference to the presidential debate that happened last week, which is kind of crazy because once again, like even though we do this show weekly, I always feel like it's been more than a week since I've been since we've been together. And the same thing with the debate. It almost seems like a lifetime ago since Biden and Trump debated.
It's quite
together.
Interesting. Our last episode was last week, exactly 7 days ago, and the debate was just 6 days ago. Right?
Yeah.
So it's, a lot has happened since then.
Yeah, exactly.
And big stuff, really. Like it's one of the key highlights of 2020, if you want to say that. I mean, the first debate is something that people will talk about for a while until, I guess, like the final results are called, and then.
Until the next debate, right?
Until the next debate, until the next debate. From what I heard, they are reviewing the debate process at this stage because the last debate was a complete failure.
In terms of
there's so much to unpack with that debate. Like, where do we want to start?
Well, do we want to talk about the I guess the overall like debate itself rather than the topic? I think like while like the ongoing debate, like with if you've ever watched Trump's like last debates during his 2016 election, it's on with this debate, and yeah, like throughout the whole debate, there was interruptions. It almost seemed like Trump was debating both Wallace and Biden at the same time at certain aspects of this particular debate. And personally, I kind of found that if you're like someone in the middle who you're kind of would they technically be swing voters, right? That's what people
I think the debate
undecided voters
is right? For the undecided voters. And I think they did a really horrible job of convincing undecided.
Yeah,
voters.
I think a lot of people that I've talked to and that I've seen online, a lot of people looked at this and kind of said that like this is a debate that may have like kind of put off people wanting to vote altogether, like for someone, right? It kind of reminds me of there's an episode of South Park for people who've maybe like South Park, and the episode is called I think it's called like Douche versus Turd Sandwich, and it was supposed to basically be an episode that was supposed to compare the I think the election of George W. Bush versus who was the second guy that he was running against? Al Gore. Yeah, I think it was like between those two. And basically it was trying to say, well, you're trying to pick between a douche and a turd sandwich. both aren't good options, but people are going to be very, very passionate about turds, or passionate about douche sandwiches, and I think this debate basically kind of cements that as being the case. But yeah, in terms of what were your thoughts about the debate? Did you guys watch it live? I didn't. I missed it.
I didn't watch the whole thing live, but I did watch a part of it live.
I watched it live. I think I missed the first 5 minutes of the debate, and I haven't had the chance to come back to those 5 minutes. I'm sure I didn't miss anything interesting.
Probably not.
But there was constant interruptions, and I think we as a group, we spoke about the fact that Wallace, the moderator, he wasn't going to live fact check any of the speakers, and we thought that was a good idea because we wanted a nicely flowing debate, right? So not constant interruptions, and it turned out even without the fact checking, there was constant interruptions, and I don't think it managed to really convince anyone, any of the undecided voters, and you know what, I think many of Trump's own supporters felt, and this is the sentiment kind of coming through on social media, is that even some of the Trump supporters felt that he may have gone a bit overboard, and this is Trump supporters, so they like to, they like to kind
they usually overlook a lot of things.
His things, but in this case they were like, okay, well, if you're trying to win over voters, especially undecided ones, like being really aggressive in the debate is maybe not a tactic that will get them, and also maybe coming after family, especially Biden's.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, here's the thing. I don't think that it's that big of a deal that he went after Hunter Biden in this particular debate, just because even Joe Biden was using his son as a political prop as well, not Hunter, his other son who died in the military, right? People use their family members in politics all the time, and Trump's family is definitely nobodies who should be aren't people who shouldn't be looked at under the context of the political landscape. It's just that I think in the end, the way that this debate kind of came across, I think to a person who maybe is uninitiated about American politics will just see this as, okay, it's two old men fighting and not really getting their points across, right? And I think that's a problem, because if you want to convince,
you're right that anyone that thinks that in a presidential contest, right, that they're going to say, okay, no, I'm not going to talk about Biden's son. It's being a bit naive. I think he would have expected a question around around his son, and they should have prepared him for it. If they didn't prepare him for it, that's really a failure of the Democratic, the DNC preparation of Biden. They just didn't prepare him.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because if in the section which Biden was actually referencing his son, it kind of remembering the debate, I kind of remember it being him trying to set up a particular kind of insult against Trump, because there's been stuff in the media about, oh, Trump said this about military service people, right? And so that seemed to be where he was trying to set up the referencing of his son, to be like, well, my son worked in fought in the military, blah blah blah. But then Trump kind of swooped in and kind of negated his line of thinking, and kind of stopped him from being able to respond to him properly about it. And
Trump
that's
is
the
great
thing.
in that way, he can really derail a conversation.
To say the least.
And with Biden, it's quite easy to do that, because Biden is easily distracted.
Yeah, I mean, most of the
that was one of the things that people were saying, that people couldn't really get real answers, for the debate questions that were being put forward. So a lot of that stuff, sounded like your campaign slogans without any, anything concrete to back it up with. It's easy to say things, but not, how are you going to follow that up? It's kind of like, when you're in high school and you have that the school captain elections, and school captains come out and say, "Oh, you're going to get this, you're going to get that," but the school captain doesn't really have
have the ability
ability or or a roadmap to achieve that goal, and people do get kids get really psyched up, and it's a lot of the friends that are hyping you up, but it's easy to say that. I think I would say the same thing applies with Trump. I felt like he negated a lot of the questions that were asked. He kind of went on a tangent very quickly. It wasn't even a conversation that led to something else. I felt like he just jumped onto a completely different topic, or he took a word from that statement and then went in a different direction.
I think what Trump forgot to do is that he forgot that his audience right now is the undecided voters.
Yes,
so
I completely
he's already
agree.
got a very loyal base. So he doesn't need
people
to
in his loyal base are not phased about anything he says.
Yeah. And what he should have done in the debate, if he wants to be re-elected as president, what he should have done is said, okay, there's 10% undecided voters. How do I win them over? And that you're going to win them over through policy. And what he didn't do is articulate any policy to win over those undecided voters. Neither did Biden. And that was the failure of both of the candidates here. And neither really articulated a policy.
And no, well, you're right. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, even I guess let's start with the first topic, right? Which is about the Supreme Court. Now, recently, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she was one of the Supreme Court justices. She recently passed away. A lot of people thought that she survived as long as she did just out of spite, just to prevent Trump from getting a third justice in the court. Like, she's been on there for a very long time and has been very influential in terms of American law and policy. So because she passed away, that opened up a new slot for the Supreme Court justice. There's 9, correct, Simon? If I'm not mistaken, 9 justices.
What was that? Sorry.
There's 9 justices, correct?
9, yes.
9 justices, yeah, on total. And so as a result, Trump and the Republicans have moved forward with trying to elect a new Supreme Court justice. Before they had Brett Kavanaugh, which was its own kind of debacle in and of itself back, I think in 2017 when he was elected.
So
and I think there was a second
after the passing of Antonin Scalia. They brought in Brett Kavanaugh, and Antonin Scalia was a Catholic, a practicing Catholic and a conservative judge, and so they wanted to bring in a conservative. Obviously, Trump representing the Republicans.
Yeah, I mean,
bring a conservative judge.
Yeah, and that tends to happen. Whoever's elected in power will tend to try and elect judges who fall within the party lines. Yeah. I think Obama put in 2 justices.
Yeah, I kind of have a different perspective on that. I think many of these, there's a lot of talk, especially from this comes from the Democrats mostly, is and the left, is that they say that the Republicans, they choose these conservative judges and therefore they'll be biased in the way that they make policy or the legislation that they pass or the decisions that they make, right? And to be honest, it's not that easy. There's 9 justices, and they all look at the facts of the case, like they're trained to do, and they rule based on the Constitution. You can have a religious bias or a partisan bias, a political partisan bias, and an affinity to the Republicans or the Democrats, but it's not really going to really influence the way that you vote when it comes to a particular legislation or an opinion that you make.
You're right, because that's what people were kind of concerned about with Brett Kavanaugh as well. There was a huge circus for his election, and people were saying, oh, well, he's going to start doing X and Y. And in the end, he ended up not kind of being the big bad wolf that everybody kind of thought he was going to be. I forget who the other judge was, because he kind of was elected in quietly. I don't remember who he was, but there was another Supreme Court justice judge that was also appointed by Trump. So this is technically Trump's 3rd potential Supreme Court judge that he's going to be implementing. And I think some of the most in recent history. in terms of placements of Supreme Court judges. But yeah, like you were saying, like the big concern from some people have been, oh well, Amy Coney Barrett. People are kind of, because she's Republican and because Republicans will be, I think, like 5-4, or maybe more than that.
I think
maybe
now
6
more,
to
but
maybe 6.
it's kind of like you look at scientists, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they could be extremely religious, but if they're doing the science, they're not going to let their religion influence the science they do. And the same goes for the Supreme Court justices, and they are the best of a really good bunch of high court justices or justices in the United States. And the reason they've been selected is because partisan politics doesn't influence the way that they vote. And they have a reputation of voting based on the facts of the case that's presented. So, there's a lot of huff and puff by the Democrats and the left about this, and I'm,
well. No, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go.
No, I was just going to say, well, I think what you're referencing and maybe what I'm about to say is, well, a lot of people are kind of concerned about whether, ACB. I'm going to get really confused about saying a name like that.
But Amy,
ACB
Barrett is ACB. Yes,
exactly. Yeah. Whether she will be like moving forward with maybe trying to repeal Roe v. Wade, which is in America is the kind of court case that made it legal for abortion to have access to abortion in America. So obviously, people, especially women who want to have reproductive autonomy, have concern about whether another judge that may have views that might go against Roe v. Wade, because again, like you said, Simon, she's religious, but like in 2017 she said that she would uphold what the decisions that were made like prior to her. So I think like it's one of those things. It's like I understand why people can be concerned about having like a like what would, it's not a super majority but a majority of partisan judges in a court, especially the Supreme Court, which may or may not be critical later with
the Supreme Court in the United States is not a kangaroo court. Like
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the Roe v. Wade case, and I'm not sure if our viewers are familiar with that. I mean,
it'd be good. It'd be good if you please, because I don't even know everything.
Just give an overview. Just give
a really like an elevator pitch on Roe v. Wade would be in the 70s. A woman in Texas was having her third child, didn't want to have the child, but wasn't allowed to get an abortion because the Texas legislation at the time only allowed abortion in cases of rape. So what she did was she claimed that the child was a result of rape. She lied and admitted to the lie later on. And in any case, she went to some lawyers. It went through the Texas state legislature, and then she obviously, the whole legal process takes a long time. So she actually had the child. The child was put up for adoption, but the case continued. So the lady's name is not Roe, but the name is just a label that when it went to the Supreme Court, it just got labeled as Roe. It's like Jane Doe. It's like Jane Roe. Right. So they already had a case for Doe, so they couldn't use that name. So they used the Roe name instead.
Okay, got it.
The Roe versus Wade is basically around this hypothetical situation where if a woman wanted to have an abortion and the state did not permit it based on the legislation of that particular state, then the process of going through the courts would mean that she would have to have the baby, see the baby to term. And so it went to the Supreme Court. They heard the case, and the justices at the time, so 7 of the justices, agreed that the federal court should force the states to uphold that opinion, which is that women should have the right to have an abortion in the first and second trimesters, if I'm correct.
I think so. I think there is, obviously, I think there are policies, I think, in the US that they're trying to allow for abortion in third trimesters. But that's obviously been
up to 8 months, I think they said.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
quite late into your pregnancy, right?
Yeah, in some places up until the day of as well. Not even joking.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It's bizarre. But anyways, but
that's
obviously
hardly an abortion if you think about it.
Well, I'm not gonna argue the legalese in that regard. But yeah. So
we've got a comment on where is this comment coming from? So I'm seeing a comment. This comment is coming from Twitch.
Oh, Twitch. Excellent.
It says women shouldn't have rights, period. So I think they're just trolling.
Okay. Sure.
But actually, I want to ask our audience a question about the topic we're on. Is Roe v. Wade obviously is about giving rights to women in the sense that they're allowed to now have abortions in first and second term. Obviously, we're men here, so it's not a decision. It's not something that we can really comment too much about. But I'd like to get an opinion of some of the women listening into our podcast or watching our podcast and get their thoughts on that matter.
Hi to Twitch. Yeah, I keep forgetting that we do have
Twitch. We go live on Twitch as well.
Yeah, we go live on multiple things. But yeah, the main thing in the debate that they were talking about was the legitimacy of passing ACB as being a Supreme Court justice, and how they're kind of fast tracking it, right? They're getting it within before the election, and ultimately I think the legal mechanisms that are put in place originally came during the Obama era, which only allowed them to require a 51% majority, which meant that in the Senate you'd need 50% and then the vice president would count as the 51%, right? And so you'd only need that majority to pass somebody as a Supreme Court justice. Yeah. Before that, it used to be a 2/3 majority, but under Obama they changed it. So it's one of those things, and I think even I think the leader, the Republican Senate leader, back in the day, was like, "You're going to regret this for allowing for a 51%," and then fast forward to all this happening, and now they're
within a decade.
Within a decade or whatever, and they've already fast tracked three justices in, well, potentially 3 justices in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think from a legal perspective, they're allowed to do it. But obviously people aren't going to be happy with the process, and
it's be that easy even if they wanted to do it, to try and get all 9, well, at least I think they need to get 6 of the justices to agree before.
What's the split right now?
I don't think the judges necessarily get a say, because it's the Senate that
decides.
It would have to go to the Supreme Court. So the justices for Roe to repeal.
For Roe v. Wade. No. I was just talking about ACB being elected.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. I meant ACB being elected. That's a Senate decision, right? Yes, yeah. But yeah, you're right. With overturning Roe v. Wade, I don't see that happening either. But obviously people being concerned is fine. It's just obviously I don't think it's gonna be. Although that being said, one of the questions that Biden was asked was whether he, would be is he going to be engaging in packing the courts, right? Which is a terminology referring to increasing the amount of judges on the Supreme Court, right? So at the moment it's 9, but in the Constitution, I think there's technically no limit to how many judges you can have. So you can technically elect more. And that's what they, certain Democrat leaders and politicians were saying, that could be a tactic to kind of counteract having a Republican majority in the Supreme Court. And Biden kind of deflected away from kind of answering that question, which kind of gives off the opinion that he isn't against doing something like that as well. So, I mean, that's obviously, I kind of saw it as, not really the best answer that you want to give, but understandably, if you don't want to actually be forward with that opinion, that's how you want to avoid it. But yeah, I guess that's the Supreme Court.
We don't want to spend too much time on it because we got others.
One last question, and maybe also to our viewers, that effectively this is the fight the last year of Trump's term, unless he gets re-elected. And do you think he should, in the last year of his term, nominate a Supreme Court judge?
I mean, if he's personally, if he's legally allowed to, then he's allowed to. Like I can't.
Yeah, I agree with that point. But there's a lot of people that but Obama didn't do that in his last term, and I'm like, well, tough luck, Obama. Why did you do
well,
that?
You see, the main reason why Obama wasn't able to get through his nomination is because there was a Republican Senate majority. So because they had the majority, they're obviously not going to allow them to have.
Ali Qureshi says, hell
no.
Hell no.
Saying,
no, well, should not elect a Supreme Court justice in his final year. Ali, if you can elaborate on why you think that is, because if the president is legally allowed to do that, and it gets through the Senate, and these justices get grilled, then just because Obama didn't. It doesn't really mean that Trump shouldn't.
Yeah, I think that's you
gotta have a substantial reason, right? Like why he shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
as a president who's got his powers of a president, and he's the majority leader,
won't even reveal his tax returns, right? So
yeah, he's at the end of his term, and this has been a conversation since day one.
He doesn't follow traditions or conventions, so we can't expect him to do that on this case.
Yeah, and I mean, again,
he's been able to dodge that for 4 years almost, man. Like
it comes back to
give him props.
It comes back to the fact that does he have to reveal his taxes? No, right?
He doesn't.
So it's like, what can one do? It's one of the.
Does he have to pay taxes?
Bite me. Yeah.
No.
What does he technically have to? Well,
I'd like him to, but if there's the problem isn't him not paying his taxes. The problem is the
system itself.
The system allows him to not pay taxes.
And
definitely,
and that's what I was mentioning earlier about the 51% majority. Like that was something that Democrats voted to pass, within their structure, like back under Obama, and it's kind of come to bite him in the ass now. So it's one of those things. It's like rules for me, not for thee, kind of thing, right? Or rule for thee, not for me. Yeah.
Anyway, so let's we've spent some time on the Supreme Court and the debate.
Let's get to more spicy topics. COVID-19. Now, obviously, there's a lot of irony that comes with Trump. On the stage during this debate, he mentioned how, I wear a mask, but I don't wear it all the time. Not like Biden in his big mask, and then fast forward 4 days. Fast forward 4 days, and he's positive for COVID. Right? Yeah. There's a lot of irony in that. I guess. Do we want to talk about the whole Trump COVID situation?
Definitely. Why not?
I think so.
Just comment on it. Yeah.
I find it funny.
There is a lot of irony.
COVID is not something to laugh about, but the irony behind Trump.
No, the irony definitely is. The irony definitely is, right? Especially given that, again, we've referenced it on here before as well, that wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, it doesn't make you immune from getting the virus, right? Like it's, masks are supposed to be a preventative measure that assists in not spreading the virus. Although there are, some studies that look into masks being used as a protective measure against having viruses infect you. But again, it is something that's
part of the protective gear, right?
Like reduces the chance of transmission.
Exactly. Yeah. And October 2nd, President Trump and First Lady Melania. Is it Melania or is it Melania? I'm confused now. Is it Melania? Because I'm confused because Simon, you pronounced it differently, and now I'm questioning myself how to pronounce it.
Right?
Melania? Yeah, Melania.
Melania, yeah.
They tested positive for COVID-19.
By the way, just before you carry on.
Oh, yeah.
They, from what I've heard, and this is a slip up from the doctor, when this was announced, turns out that they were more likely found to be positive on Wednesday, which is the 30th of September. And they decided after, having their meetings and all that, to come out on Friday night and say that they've been tested positive. So apparently there was a 72-hour delay between notifying the public. So yeah, he was infected.
Yeah, I think that might be more because of the incubation period for something like
No.
COVID-19.
No. I'm talking about being tested positive. I'm not talking about when he contracted the virus.
I think what that alludes to is that there's two tests. There's a quick test.
Yeah, there's a PCR test, and then
the PCR is the quick test that gives you as a high chance of false positives, or
potential
false negatives. Yeah. So
even the doctor confirmed himself. He tried to delay it. He said that no, we found out that he was positive from the second test on Thursday afternoon, and then from the White House, a statement came saying that it was Thursday night. So they're trying to, of course, shrink that gap between getting that news and letting the public know. The reason why I bring it up is because he was out, there
was a couple of rallies that he went to,
attending rallies. While the test was being conducted. So
it's quite possible. I mean,
yeah, but that's again, like, that just adds to the carelessness and the kind of message that he's sending to the general public. Even today. So I think we will talk about that later, but
no, sorry. Savik in the chat says Trump doesn't have COVID. Yeah, that is one of the big brain theories that I have seen going around.
About this that
actually,
COVID hoax.
Actually, I want to read Ali's another comment by Ali. He says, fascist governments are really disorganized in reality, and what Summit is saying is right. And Trump lies about everything. So the doctor confirmed, but the White House report said that the doctor is lying. I mean, you see, the timeline for the virus is kind of sketchy, right? Because at the moment, because what's been said as the super spreader event is ACB's Rose Garden event. So the Supreme Court judge the
Rose Garden massacre.
It's all connected.
The Red Wedding.
Connected.
The Red Wedding. So there were 7 people that got coronavirus at that particular event. Oh, sorry, 8 people now. 8 people now. And that's where some people
8 that we know about.
8 that we know about. But here's the thing. The problem is that follows the timeline which says that, okay, the average person who gets infected with COVID-19 takes about 5 to 6 days, right? And that kind of works out to be within the measure of being infected or being confirmed by October 2nd, or as someone was saying, there's also the the report allegedly, the doctor who said that they were tested on the 30th, right? So that's the thing.
He said 72 hours, and then the reporters caught him in that. They're like, oh, what do you mean by 72 hours? Because it was only announced less than 24 hours ago, and then the doctor just fumbled. And he's like, oh, yeah.
I want to see that too.
Yeah.
I remember seeing...
It was the first meeting at Walter Reed. So Trump was flown into Walter Reed. The following morning, at 11 a.m. Eastern time in the US, they came out. The doctors came out. So his physician, Trump's physician, came out and said that it was 72 hours ago, this happened, and then 48 hours ago, this happened. And then the journalists were like, what do you mean 72 hours? Didn't we just arrive like 12 hours ago?
How do you know 72? Yeah. What are you, some kind of time traveler? What's going on here?
I like what Sahal said. His cells built a wall to keep them Ronas out.
To keep the corona out. This is a comment, right? On October 3rd, we are 72 hours into this diagnosis. Yeah. So this is the thing. I don't think, because here's the thing, for COVID-19 to actually develop and to have live forms of the virus to be detectable by tests, it requires an incubation period. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that is what the 72 hours number is a reference to. Because here's the thing,
I highly doubt that. I think you're reaching. I know you're playing devil's advocate here, but I really think if that was the case, the doctor could have easily explained that, and he just fumbled.
Well, because for example, on let's see, on
the White House comes out and says otherwise. So there's conflicting reports.
Even if it wasn't 72 hours, even if it was 48 hours, it still doesn't. The timelines don't match up.
I'm just saying because, for example, and there was information. The doctors had information.
Here's the thing: if he was like, because let's say he got sick at the Rose Garden event, right? And it takes about like they say 4 to 5, but it can technically be less than, because he is older. And his immune system isn't going to be like ours, us in our 20s and 30s, right? We're much more we've got the best immune systems, right? And as a result, like Chris Wallace, who was the debate moderator during the first debate, mentioned that they didn't test Trump because he came late. And even the Cleveland medical, I think it's like who was supposed to do the testing,
the Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah, the Cleveland Clinic. Sorry, they hadn't tested either of the candidates either, right? So
no, they did test Biden.
Not according to what I've seen. Like, the reports only say that the candidates themselves had been tested negative by their respective candidates, but the clinic themselves didn't test them. So that's what I'm kind of confused about, right?
And again, I mean, there could be conflicting reporting. It's always difficult to work out what's true and what's not in the Trump era.
But let's say Biden did get tested.
So
at least according to
that everyone came in, was tested by the Cleveland Clinic. The Trump let's say the Trump family, the Biden family, and their surrogates, they all came in, they got tested. Biden got tested. Trump came in late. Now, there could be good reason. He's the president. He was busy eating KFC or something, came in late, or he knew maybe there was a positive PCB test, and he purposely came in late. I don't know. That's the conspiracy.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, and that's the problem. Like, if he got infected like at the Rose Garden event, and he's developing,
which was the Saturday before the debate.
Yeah, so that was on the 26th.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which was the Saturday before the debate.
Yeah.
So in all likelihood, there was they did a PCB test on Trump on the Sunday. It would have come in negative. They would have done one on Monday.
No, the PCB that you're talking about is that
the quick test.
The swab. PCR.
Oh, sorry, PCB. I'm talking about computers here. But the PCR test came in most likely negative on the Sunday, because it's a daily test. Would have been negative on Monday. And he would have done one on Tuesday.
Here's the thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be negative. The problem with doing just a PCR test is that it's looking for the presence of... So PCR stands for polymerase chain reaction, right? And so essentially it's using an enzyme to replicate a certain DNA fragment that's present in your blood, right? So if it's detecting viral DNA, it will then replicate it, and depending on how long they can determine, based on the amount that's present, the amount of the DNA that's present in your system, how long the virus technically may have been around for in your system. And so if it hasn't developed long enough, you could get a negative result that way. So
you need a larger viral load for it too.
Just to give you guys, just to say.
Oh yeah.
Another comment about the PCR test. Apparently, that is considered the gold standard in Australia for detecting COVID-19.
Yeah.
So I guess if there was a positive PCR test, then I think there is a.
Well,
look, I find it kind of not just being irresponsible, but I think it's kind of devious that a lot of there's big case numbers in America, and that number hasn't stopped. It's not like us that we get less than 10 cases a day, and yet you have the president of America just going about doing his everyday life as usual, even when there is a reading that says that he may have contracted the virus.
Okay, one thing I've got family in the US. Everyone in the US is doing whatever they like.
I know people in the US too. Yeah,
and they're the only ones at home,
it's almost a reflection, right?
Social distancing. But the shops are open, the shopping centres, you name it. People are out and about living their life. It's as though nothing has happened.
Well, I mean, if you have a president like that, if you don't have a healthcare system, a universal healthcare system, what do you expect? There's so many people who don't have health insurance. So it doesn't even matter if they have COVID or if they don't have COVID, because, how would they know? Because they're not going to go pay out of their pockets.
Sabik says, Sabik has a great question here. He says, we need to isolate for 14 days if we're tested positive, but Trump is fine within 3 days. Now, Trump was given like a bunch of stuff, right? This would be the equivalent of like getting top shelf medicine. He was given a type of steroid that's you see, here's the thing, right? All the news outlets that I've been seeing have been saying, oh, well, Trump was given, I think it's called Dexa, what's it called? Dexa something or other.
Sounds like the steroid.
Yeah, the steroid.
They're two. Yeah, there's two, right?
Yeah, dexamethasone, and it's typically given to people with bad cases or severe cases of COVID-19. The thing here is he's also 70. That's also the other reason why he would be given steroids over, let's say, you and I, right? Like we would typically require. And
he's the president.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. You don't want to necessarily give people steroids because it does suppress your immune system. So that's like the kind of balancing act that you want to do when you're giving steroids in a COVID-19 situation. Like you only want to give it like, and hence the reason why like we wouldn't take steroids unless we were having issues with our lungs, right? Because he's in his 70s, there's more greater concerns of him having issues with breathing and lung damage if he's not given the steroids. He was also given polyclonal antibodies, which are just like third-party antibodies that target COVID-19. Again, it's all experimental. Our bodies produce antibodies to try and fight off infections, but you can get antibodies from a third party to try and target COVID-19. The only problem with that route is because you're getting it from someone else, your body isn't naturally producing these antibodies and may make you susceptible for getting infections later down the line. So it's one of those things where, it's done to try and get him better. And the last thing is remdesivir, which is an ongoing drug that has been seen to be effective against COVID-19. But, even some places...
I don't know why that drug sounds like something out of Lord of the Rings.
Remdesivir? It does probably sound like an elf or something, right? Like, offering their shield or their
I do agree with Sahal. He was struggling to breathe when he made that statement. If you actually watch it closely, you can tell that he has trouble breathing. And also, he wasn't, besides, of course, like all the drugs, he was, put on oxygen supply to help him breathe better.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've talked about the effects of COVID-19 on this show as well. Like, he may be fine now, but we don't know what the long-term effects of whether, like, if he's fine, like, great, like,
good on him, yeah.
But like obviously it's something that they have to keep monitoring. So yeah, like as Sabik was saying earlier, like we have to isolate for 14 days, and I'm sure they're going to be heavily monitoring him. And if not the White House, at least the press will, right? I
think his movements. That's what the people are concerned about. It's not the fact that he's left the hospital, because he's going to get top of the.
I think he's going to disregard any
top of the class,
staying away from other people and social distancing and isolation.
He said it himself.
In the White House, it'll be fine.
He said it himself. He said that when you meet people from the army and other officials, you're gonna hug, you're gonna kiss. And for a president, president's supposed to, in my eyes anyway, it's supposed to set an example for the rest of the citizen, right? And if you're gonna come out and say that, in situations like that, things happen, then of course that's the reason why the public's just out and about doing whatever they feel like doing.
That tweet that he made. Do one of you?
By the way, text in the chat, and he made a really good point. I think he said they must have given him the super soldier serum. That's what I was laughing at. He feels 20
years younger, mate. Maybe his hands have grown. Like I saw what that serum did to Steve Rogers, mate. But yeah,
Trump is now coming out of Walter Reed, I believe, today.
Yeah,
He's already out.
He's already out. He's already out.
And he tweeted. What did he tweet? Does someone have that tweet?
He made a statement. He read the same statement, and that's the statement I'm talking about, where you can tell that he's got trouble breathing.
No, not the statement. There was a tweet today that he he said
the one that I sent in the chat.
Don't be afraid of.
Yep. That's exactly what he said in the statement. That's exactly.
And funnily enough, I remember in our super secret mind under matter chat that we have, both me and Samad were like, oh, he's gonna if he gets out of this and he's all right, he's gonna use this as a means to say, oh, it wasn't too bad. Everybody, get back to your life and all that. And look, fundamentally, it's kind of
is just weak. Right?
Well, this is the thing. In kind of relation to what you were saying.
Sorry, guys, but I'm built different.
Built different. 20 years younger, mate.
COVID made me younger.
It's kind of like what you said.
Get COVID, you'll feel 20 years younger.
It's kind of like how you said, Simon, about how maybe the vast majority of people in America are kind of just continuing to live their life, right? And I think fundamentally that's probably what he's trying to appeal to, right? Rather than he
doesn't want lockdown because he cares about the business. He wants the economy to boom. He doesn't want stores and shops and shopping centers and businesses to be shut down or to have limited.
On his watch.
On his watch, yeah. He wants to prove that, oh, look, during COVID, I was still able to make sure that the businesses are running and people are making money and there's people have the money to spend. So of course he's gonna do whatever it takes.
I mean that's his shtick, his whole.
It's the economy.
He literally said it. So he's like, get out there. He literally said it, get out there and just stay safe. Like, what does that even entail?
Now, Ali also asked in the chat, you guys should discuss the effects of a hypothetical scenario if Trump dies, in brackets, he won't, but it would be interesting how both sides will take it. I mean, if he dies, Pence becomes president, which Heba also which Heba also mentioned in the chat, Pence would be worse. I think Pence would be the same. Obviously, more
the thing is
more conservative,
will be
but
but until November 5th, and then Biden would win. Biden against Pence, America is going to vote for Biden.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think Biden.
Even Republicans would have a hard time standing behind Pence, I reckon.
I mean.
And fun fact, if something happens to Pence, it would technically be Nancy Pelosi who ends up becoming the temporary president, for people who didn't know that. Because she is the Speaker of the House. And that's the I think it's like the
she's a party leader, isn't it?
She's the Republican Party leader, but she's also Speaker of the House.
No, she's the Nancy Pelosi. She's the Democrat.
She's Democratic.
Yeah, she's Democratic.
She's Speaker of the House.
Yeah, but she's Speaker of the House. I guess that's the status on Trump. I guess we'll see going forward.
What about Pence? Did he get his test results?
I don't know.
Yeah, Pence was negative. They've tested him.
Negative? Oh, okay. I know.
They test every day. He's been negative so far.
And so I guess going back, to kind of go back to the actual debate and the kind of context of the debate, unless you guys have any final words.
I did want to bring up a couple of things. One is that all Trump needs to do to clarify, or the White House needs to do to clarify the comments around the 72 hours or when he actually contracted COVID, is to release the timeline or the testing. So they test him daily. What were the test results over the last week and a half? That's all they need to do. But the White House administration will not do that. On top of that, the White House also have now said they're not going to do contact tracing to work out how all of these, how there's been a cluster of now close to 30 people in the White House that have contracted COVID-19. So they're not going to do contact tracing, which is, to me, a big concern.
Oh yeah, it is a concern. Here's the thing.
That's White House.
But here's the thing: by not doing it, it allows them to deflect on where the origin of the outbreak is. Because, like I said earlier,
they can create a narrative. And
because like I said earlier, because people at the presidential debates who also got infected as well, and so they'll probably use that and like, oh well, I must have got infected from Wallace himself, right? Like, you know, they'll make whatever they want, and because they kept it vague. Now we'll see. Again, it's still early days. There's plenty of things that can happen between now and next week.
So Trump is back in the White House, I'm sure, and he said,
is he back to tweeting? Because I remember people were saying that.
Tweeting, but he's also said he's gonna do the next debate.
Well, there you go.
So he hasn't backed out of the next debate, which is now in a week and a bit. So I think in about 8 and 9 days from now. So we'll see. I'm sure they're going to come up with a story around how he got the virus, and I'm sure somehow the Democrats will be implicated in the Trump version of that.
I wouldn't expect anything less.
The DNC laced the podium in which Trump was standing with COVID-19.
Yeah. Well, Simon, I'm going to ask you a very important question. Can you prove that they didn't do that?
Real question.
That's exactly the way Trump will respond.
Yeah. By the way, audience, I think it's generally you can't prove a negative. So
the great thing is that all Trump has to do is tell this narrative to Sean Hannity on Fox,
and he's going to talk about it for hours.
And Friends. It'll be on Sean Hannity, and Fox will run with this fairy tale.
And then O'Reilly will jump on because he doesn't want to be irrelevant.
Exactly, and that's it. Americans will believe it.
Bill O'Reilly still around?
No, I think he's out.
I thought he got fired or whatever.
He got fired.
Oh yeah, he did get fired. He got kicked out. Yeah.
How many people have been fired from Fox for something to do with sexual assault or rape allegations?
It's a Fox favorite.
I literally do not know.
But I do want to talk about.
Oh yeah, sorry, go.
No, I do want to talk about him, of course, contracting COVID. There's a couple of things, of course, when he was.
Sorry to interrupt. Ali, Hannity needs the electric chair.
God.
Thank you for that comment, Ali.
Good one. Yeah, that might he might need that electric treatment for that mind of his, man. Now I was going to talk about when he was at the hospital, him leaving the hospital to make a presence at the rally. When he was driving through the car, and then in the car, he was wearing just a fabric mask, and then I think he decided to take it off for a little bit while there's people in that car wearing full PPE.
Did he take it off?
Yeah, just to wave.
He took off the mask to wave? I remember seeing him in the car.
Just to show his face. I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah. I could be wrong.
I remember seeing him in the car and waving.
The point that people were making was, first of all, he shouldn't be out of the hospital, while he was still being treated for COVID.
Well, I mean,
and at the rally, there's people who are not wearing the mask.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Like, if he's well to go home, so long as he isolates.
Yeah, but he wasn't well to go home at that time. That's the problem.
Well, when he left, when he was attending the rally, when he made his when they're saying, well, that's the thing. I don't know if I can confirm whether or not he was sick during that time. So
No. I think there's a misunderstanding here.
Oh, okay.
So he was at the hospital. He left the hospital during his treatment to make a presence at the rally. He didn't get out of the car. He was in the car with this.
They just had a motive.
With the Secret Service. When they were driving around. So he went out for a round. And the point that people are making is that people who were in the car now have to self-isolate for 14 days. While he's out and about. So people are saying that it was, of course.
My perspective, to be honest, is all of this is just a distraction on what we should, and Trump's great at creating distractions, but what we should be talking about and what Biden should be talking about right now is his policy platform. He should be going after Trump, but right now, instead of talking about how, Trump has maybe failed on his promises over the last 3 years to his own base.
No. Let's talk about him having COVID.
Let's talk about him not wearing or going for a joyride with some Secret Service people. I'm like, it's such a distraction that it's going to cause the Democrats, if they want to win, if Biden wants to win, it's causing him to lose because they're talking about the wrong things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the one thing that Trump kind of gets away with, at least from a media perspective, is that he's just in the media. He's just in the zeitgeist. He just does something, and the media will report on it, how big or how small it is, rather than, like you said, Simon, about like the real issues, about like what should he have done, or what things, like, for example, like
the big picture here is that there's the election in less than 30 days, and Biden wants to win, but the DNC are acting like they don't care because they're talking about all the wrong things. They're distracted by every little minute thing that Trump does, rather than going after him on his policy and his failures. They want to win. They're doing the wrong. They're going about it the wrong way.
Fatima in the chat says Samad's got a man bun going on, and he certainly does, and we all condone man buns here.
Well, I have no choice. That's what happens when you can't get a haircut.
Get a haircut, exactly. But in terms of the actual debate, especially around COVID-19, I wasn't very impressed with Biden's kind of response on it, because he was basically saying that, they should have had mandated masks in January. I would have gotten mask mandated in January. And I look at that and I see that's absolutely ridiculous. There's no way that Trump would have been able to get that through, and I don't think Biden would have got that through either.
No one was using it. It wasn't the practice at that time.
Even
World Health Organization.
Yeah. I mean, like, even like,
is that something that the federal government can even do? It's an authority that sits with the state, not the.
Oh yeah, you're right. Like, for example, in Michigan, for example, the Michigan Supreme Court recently ruled against the governor's emergency powers to combat against COVID-19. Now, they called this unconstitutional, and part of these emergency measures included shutting down businesses, mandatory mask wearing, and limiting travel restrictions. And they kind of called these emergency powers as unconstitutional, right? And that's in one state. Another state in Pennsylvania had a very similar situation as well, where the federal judge said that, these shutdown restrictions are unconstitutional, right? Now, this is kind of like the price, so to speak, that you pay for freedom, right? Like, having freedom means that there's a lot of checks and balances, and you can't just immediately shut the whole country down based on the whims. Like, if Trump wanted to shut down multiple states, it wouldn't have looked good for him, because it would fall on party lines, right? All the red states would be like, maybe might be. I don't even think the red states would agree either. I couldn't imagine Texans wanting to shut down during this period.
I don't even believe in it to begin with. A lot of the Trump supporters.
But I wouldn't imagine Democrats being on board either, because they would probably take that position as well. Like, you can't shut down aspects of the law, of our state. It has to go through this. It's going to go through challenges, blah blah blah. So I'm not really satisfied with Biden's attempt to try and say that he would have solved this problem, because no Western government was fast enough to actually respond to the COVID-19 situation. Like Taiwan, South Korea, like these are all countries that don't trust China and didn't follow the World Health Organization. In fact, I think even Trump,
I take your point, but Biden's not going to win by saying nothing about it. He's saying something that's going to.
Yeah, but it's hollow. I'm pointing out that it's hollow.
I mean,
it's all.
If you're talking about,
but how many people are going to go that deep?
How many
say, Biden would have done that and saved 210,000 lives? Well, we should
I'm just saying that, it's not.
If you think about it,
it's clever that he said he would.
Well,
he can say whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants.
Election.
Well, if you look at
anything goes.
If you look at Yeah, literally.
I'm just trying to point out to my audience that there's no the audience.
There's no way to prove it, and there's no way to disprove it either, right? Like he can say whatever he wants at this stage. But if you look at Trump, he also makes a lot of hollow statement. When every time he's asked,
well, I mean, he literally doesn't want.
I've done the best this, I've done the best that, and then it's always this, it's always the hand movement.
Yeah, it's always the hand thing. That's why I do the hand thing. The hand movement.
I do want to talk about a comment that Ali made here. Trump, there will be no transfer of power. Fascist alarm bells.
Well, we'll get to that.
I think it's tied to the debate because
it
came up, and Biden said
towards
it
the
doesn't
end.
really matter what Trump wants to do because there will be an orderly transition of power.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if Trump loses, there will be an orderly transition of power. And the reality is, the U.S. Constitution makes sure there will be an orderly transition of power.
Exactly.
I know. Look, Trump wants to be a fascist. I'm sure he thinks really highly of Mussolini and other fascists. I'm sure he thinks highly of those people. But the American Constitution is very, very different. It will not allow him to hold on to power if he's not allowed to.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get to that because that's actually a point of contention during the debate as well. We also got a comment from Tack because I want more comments from him. VP debate will probably get pushed because COVID White House breakout. Apparently it would, but I don't know if it would. But who cares about the vice presidential debates? Just putting it out there. I don't.
They've said instead of having a 2-meter gap, it's going to be 3.5 meters.
3.5
apart.
Yeah,
they're doubling it.
Double it. Just double it, mate.
Just double it. Whatever it is, double it.
Double it. Whatever it is, double it.
The debate after that.
40 seconds for hand.
Look. You know what? They should just do a Zoom debate, right? Because it'd be very easy for the moderator to mute someone. If they really wanted to, right? Like, you put enough. Just make sure you have a good connection, right? Was there any other
don't have technical difficulties like us?
Yeah, well, hey, we haven't had a technical difficulty yet. Whatever happened to our technical difficulty segment?
Maybe TAC was the technical difficulty.
Oh, the technical difficulties.
That's what it was.
Come on.
Sorry, TAC. We love you, man. We miss you.
Was there any other kind of comments you guys wanted to make in regards to the COVID-19 section?
I think we'll before we move on, I think we will talk about his the message that he was giving in that tweet, and then in that that little briefing that he did, the addressing to the public, telling people that of course not be afraid of it, not let it take over your lives, which I can agree to a certain extent, but I think the problematic issue is downplaying the whole condition, promising something that he won't be able to deliver. So he said we're months away from a vaccine. There's absolutely no confirmation from any of those vaccines being worked on at this stage.
It'll be any day now.
And then he's also talked about these drugs and these processes and these drugs that are going to be available, which is not true.
Well, I mean, look. We just mentioned before about how
FDA
Biden can make up stuff.
No, but he's a president, right? Like he's. But he's the president.
But when has that stopped him? When has that stopped him?
I know it hasn't, but
less than 30 days until the booth.
Look, a free elephant for everyone.
They're allowed to do whatever they want.
A free elephant for every American. All right. Look. If they can have more tigers in America, they can have more elephants in America.
Yeah, that's true.
They can do it. Yeah. If there's a demand, he'll supply it.
And it's of course the the main base are poor to middle class white Americans, and they get really excited when they hear these things that that we're gonna have all these state of the art drugs.
We're all gonna get an elephant.
We're gonna get a free elephant. Yeah.
Wait. Are Republicans elephants? In the how they have the donkey and the elephants. Okay, cool. I didn't even mean to make that connection, but it worked. All right,
it worked.
I
think that's a super insensitive thing to say, especially when so many people are battling with this.
To downplay the virus like that,
especially in a country where there's no system to contain it, right? Like it's just people are not following any guidelines.
Well, yeah, again, because you can't enforce the guidelines, so people are just going to end up doing whatever they want, right?
Well, I mean,
and so ultimately, I think the thing that he's gonna try and do is project a message of positivity and be like, hey, there's going to be a cure, guys. Just wait till I'm elected, and you'll get that cure, right?
Only if I'm elected, you'll get it.
What he wants to do is just shore up the stock market, right?
Well, I mean, if he's not around
before the re-election,
then
it's like, oh, 210,000 dead people. Let's brush that under the rug. But hey, look at that stock market. It's going up.
Yeah, and maybe it was their time to go. It was destined for them to go. So it doesn't matter what happened. You can always downplay it through different means. And yeah, I think one thing that I did notice is I was reading into comments from Republican supporters, Trump supporters, I should say, commenting on this particular tweet, saying that now they're going to think twice before they vote for him again because they've lost people within their family to this virus. So I think for a lot of Australians, who are, let's say, like, on the conspiracy side of things, a lot of them don't know anyone who's got the virus or who has passed away from it.
To be fair, that's the same in America too. I've seen a lot of people who've said like, oh well, I don't know anyone who's sick.
Yeah,
but
I think there are more people who do know than I would say in Australia. I don't think a lot of people.
But if you look at do Americans do Americans love their loved ones more than they hate immigrants and Mexicans, I guess, right? Is if Trump has said that this virus is, don't fear it, live your life, do whatever you want to do, and Americans roll with that even though they've lost people that they know and they still vote for him, then it means that they care more about his policies around protecting, making America great again, those policies, as opposed to their loved ones who have passed away.
It's a sacrifice, that's how they see it. It's a sacrifice that those people have made.
It's a two different system. It's a two different systems that different kind of countries have employed, right? Like if you look at Sweden, if you look at America, they've gone for we'll wing it kind of strategy. Whereas like, if you compare it to Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, they've got like a lockdown. Oh, South Korea is better than us, but like, you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Like we've got more like
winging it. They're
by comparison to
they're intentionally not taking advice of scientists because it will mean it will hurt the economy, and so they're making a conscious decision to ignore scientific evidence and advice from epidemiologists and the CDC.
Well, that's the thing. If you like, it's the same thing with what they were saying in Sweden, right? Because their like head epidemiologist is going for we're going to do a herd immunity, mate. We're gonna make everybody immune by getting everyone infected. Turns out it's probably not going to be the case.
But that's at least a strategy to. Because at the moment, no one really knows. The virus is completely novel. That's the name of it, right? It's a novel.
Well, it is a novel coronavirus. That's correct.
So we don't really know how to best treat it, and so every country is trying something different. But America is different in the sense that they're consciously making a decision to ignore the scientific evidence. What the other countries are doing and saying we're either like Sweden, we're saying we're going to try to go to herd immunity, we're going to protect the at-risk people, and etc.
Well, yeah, like places like Australia, like we're going for we're going to try and protect, like we're going
for eradication strategy.
Well, yeah, we're going for it's like economy is off. Here, it's not the priority at the moment. It's people's lives, right? Yeah. And those are the two strategies, right? One thing I just want to point out. Ali's asking about election integrity. We will get to election integrity. So hold your thoughts. We will get to it.
What about him explaining what he meant by holding the power, or the no transfer of power by calling off the elections for, of course, because he's already making a point that there's going to be corruption. There's going to be
Well, and to be fair, there's already like bases for there being like issues with the voting system. And
The
again,
mailing. Yeah.
we'll get into it. But was there any other kind of
is that
yeah,
something we want to get into? Okay, well, let's do it.
Well, yeah, like, well, I mean, I mean, I got it. Like, well, if you guys have the time, of course. Was there any other kind of comments you guys wanted to round off for this section?
No, I think let's segue straight into
the economy.
That was it.
Yeah, the economy is really the economy stuff is really simple. Like, yeah, like Trump's economy has just been kind of average throughout the whole thing, and that was like a point of contention in the election. I think Biden was just saying like, oh well, the economy is bad, but you know, pre Corona, it was just doing average. So like that's the only kind of thing I just wanted to mention there. Now we get to the more spicier topic, which is race relations. So this particular section, you know, they were both kind of asked about why each candidate should be considered to be why they should be chosen over their candidate for being the new president, given their relations with race, right? Trump kind of attacked Biden with the 1994 crime bill that he was responsible for, which obviously is kind of like an important thing to kind of keep in mind, because it did lead to a lot of incarcerations of African Americans during the 1990s. And at the same time, like, you know, Wallace kind of probed Biden about like, oh, did you call Portland the Portland mayor? Like, I thought that was kind of a ridiculous question. Like, I don't know how you felt about it, but it's like, I don't feel like it's like Biden's responsibility to call out mayors to go into action about what the mayor should be doing in their like town. Sorry, in their
and
their
Biden
city.
really didn't have a good response to that. He could have come back and he didn't.
Yeah, like, yeah, Biden's response like wasn't like super great, but like,
I mean,
but
look,
I don't think
he was throughout the entire debate. Biden was more, I guess, like reactive than proactive, and it didn't really feel like he had, you know, crazy good points about his policy and the reason why he should be the president. He went on to say that. Pardon?
Yes,
he did do something really well. He stared into the camera and spoke to the Americans a few different occasions. So I'm not sure if you all recall that. So he did that when talking about Bew, which is his son that was in the military and then passed away from cancer. And he did that on a couple of different topics. So I think 4 or 5 times he actually looked into the camera and spoke to Americans. And I think that was very effective.
So sorry, I just want to interrupt you guys just for one moment. Heba, we will be getting into mail-in ballot corruption. It'll be like it'll literally be the last thing. Unless people want us to talk about it now, it's up to you guys. We just decided to go with the.
I think we wanted to talk about the comment around the Proud Boys comment, right?
The Proud Boys
here as well.
Which
stand back and stand by.
Yeah,
I think that the whole statement just kind of felt like Trump was a bit rattled, like he didn't know how to respond to it, like he was kind of caught in the moment. It was a pretty simple statement.
He looked like he was thinking on his feet at the time.
He was like, I don't know how to go. He's like, oh, so who am I referring to?
Well, here's the thing.
Like,
he says sure 3 times, and then he asks them to clarify, and then Biden says Proud Boys. I thought that was the most stupidest thing Biden could have said, because in the end, like, even if you like the Proud Boys, if you don't, right, like,
Biden
you shouldn't.
A lot of stupid things.
But he should have. But like,
he said,
no, but it wasn't.
But it's like
Biden didn't ask the question though. It was Wallace.
No. But like the question was about. Yeah, but he brought up Proud Boys, and that ended up being the reason why Trump went on and be like, oh well, no, I don't condemn them, because that was his out, because he essentially said, well, no, I don't need to condemn Proud Boys because they're not white nationalists, right? Now,
you said that he said sure.
3
that's
times.
Not a condemnation. Saying
well, I mean, here's the thing.
Pause, sure.
And this is the thing. This is the thing that
then say yes. He didn't unequivocally say again. I unequivocally condemn white supremacy.
White supremacy.
The problem is Wallace.
What do you mean? Who do you mean?
The problem is Wallace said in his statement, "Do you condemn white supremacists and militias?" Right? Like, this was a statement, and so that's probably the section where Trump had to pause and be like, "Well, I can't condemn militias because you're technically under their constitution. You're allowed to form like groups of militias, right? Like even during like all the Black Lives Matter protests, there are black militias around. Like you're legally allowed to form militia groups, right? So he can't technically.
But, I mean, in the context of the question,
yeah,
it's very clear what militias mean. I mean, do you condemn militias? And the context is in the concept of.
I understand, but I'm saying this is the reason why. But I'm saying this is the reason why and then the moment when Biden said Proud Boys, like who knows who Proud Boys are? The only reason I know who Proud Boys are because I see them here and there making noise when they're trying to like combat like Antifa or whatever the hell is like whatever protest groups there are. Like nobody knows who these groups are, and now Biden's given them national attention. And I thought that was irresponsible.
And Trump has reinforced them as well. By
so
saying,
congratulations. Now you've given a group like even more. And like it's
and it didn't take them long. They started making posters. Like they started making merch. They went all out because now they kind of feel like they're president's favorite, right? Like out of the other groups, they made it.
And the thing is, when people go and look at Proud Boys, like I think their chair leader is like a Afro-Cuban Afro-Cuban man. So when they look at it, they're just going to see like a black guy. So when people are going to point out and be like, oh well, Proud Boys are white nationalists, but they see the leader as like a black dude, it's not going to look good, right? So this is a problem. And ultimately,
Clayton
Bigsby. Isn't it Bigsby?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's Bigsby. Yeah.
We've all seen that, so it's not completely impossible.
Well, but that's the thing. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a meme, but that's the problem, right? Like,
if you guys haven't seen that, maybe make sure you do go watch it on.
Dave Chappelle's. Well, I forget what the skit is called.
It's just type in Dave Chappelle
Black White Supremacist.
Yeah. You can probably do Dave Chappelle and white supremacist, and it'll probably come up as well. Man, I miss Dave Chappelle.
Oh man, such a good.
Isn't he supposed to have like another special coming out on Netflix? Sorry,
well, after Six Stones got him in a lot of hate. Deep.
Who cares what people say, man? Like,
people loved it. I feel like it was the critics, and apparently to the point where even was only allowed very particular type of critics to.
I do remember that.
To critique it.
If you're a critic of Dave Chappelle, then you just don't like comedy. Like just
but comedy's dead, man. Like for the most part, like even people who used to be like kind of big comics, like kind of don't do the comic scene anymore. Like who's it? Jerry Seinfeld. He like used to do like comedy clubs and stuff, but then he stopped.
He just stopped doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like plenty of people who are like that. Sorry, I just need to drink. Also, I hope by the way, just for the audience, I hope my mic quality is better. I hope it's like a little better. I've been using like my headset mic, so hopefully like there is a little bit of a difference, and I don't sound too like bing bong when you listen to me. Like it took 2 months for me to get. I bought this like 2 months ago.
Oh yeah, I remember when you told me. Yeah.
And just because of the shipment, it took like forever to get here. I kept getting delays. It's like, oh, it's coming next month, or it's coming next month. So I hope. Thanks, Steve.
Before we move on again, I would, me personally, would like to say, I think the way that Trump reacted to that particular, because I was watching that live, by the way, so I was completely taken back by the way that he reacted, and it took him so long to.
I was just flabbergasted that Wallace gave him the most easy question. Right?
All he had to say was, "Of course."
Like just a slam dunk. It was just like,
it's like militia. He could say militia under whatever pretense.
Trump has already done that at least on 7 different occasions, right?
Yeah.
Which I didn't know about. Thanks for pointing that out to me, Adam.
Yeah,
but he has condemned white supremacists on 7 different occasions.
And by the way,
to do it again.
By the way, but here's the thing, right? Wallace, like I didn't actually know this because it's been a while since I remembered the 2016 presidential debate. But Wallace was also the moderator for one of the debates as well, and he asked this exact question to Trump in 2016. and he's asking it again. Like, I don't know how many, like, I wouldn't want to be like asked like, oh, do you condemn like every single like Islamic terrorist attack when it happens, because you can't control what independent groups are doing on their own like volition.
I understand he's a
a lot has changed in the 4
and,
years,
and
right?
a reporter, and
but that's what I'm saying.
He needs to there's a depiction of Trump
he did a really bad job. He should. There's an easy way that he could have answered the question. It's yes, I condemn white supremacists, neo-Nazis, but they are not, because then he went on to then say
he blamed Antifa,
and he didn't.
And then he just went like, it's not the white supremacists who are causing trouble. So,
if you look at the statistics, like in the current protests in America, like 91% of all the riots are linked to Black Lives Matter. Like there's
but there are it's not just like they just erupted out of nowhere, right? Like there was something that was happening.
I will say
that a boiling pot. So
you are factually correct that right now there's more violence coming from the left.
But
if we take a slice of time and we just say, in this narrow period of time of during COVID-19 and post George Floyd death, that we're going to start the time clock then and then count, left-wing or violence from the left. If we say that's where we start, then I agree with you. But that's an arbitrary point in time to start, and I think we need to look broader.
That's the period that people are currently living in, right? Like, and this is the problem, right? Like, the vast majority of protests that are happening in America are mostly peaceful, right? It's like what is it, like 93%, right? But the 7% that are that erupt in riots are the ones that are unfortunately going to get the attention of people, because those are what's going to end up like damaging property, injuring people's lives, and ultimately changing people's opinions about where they should vote, right? And people want security, right? But we don't want Ali. I completely agree with Ali in one respect, in that I don't want a fascist government. And people begging for security is how we get a fascist government. It won't be through 1984 issue. It will be through Brave New World, if people understand the difference between the two books. Actually, Ali actually mentioned Antifa only exists as a reaction to white supremacy and fascists, so it's just a wrong argument for Trump. I mean, Antifa has existed for a very long time. I don't necessarily agree with that.
This one's to both of you guys, and
the
because
current violence,
our audience.
The current violence that's happening with the rioting is not as a result of white supremacy, though. It's not. It's not.
I mean, the biggest target is police brutality. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
Do
we want to talk about is Antifa an idea?
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Well,
look, is it a group or is it an ideology?
Like, I don't know. If there aren't enough low IQ takes from that debate, like that was probably the lowest. Like you can't say.
Can we maybe our viewers can? What are your thoughts? What is Antifa? Are they an idea or an organization? So Biden's comment on that was
he was pretty adamant that they're
an idea and not an organization.
It's an ideology.
To be honest, I don't really know enough about their structure to be able to say one way or another.
Well, they don't.
If you look at the name itself, it sounds like an ideology, right? Like it's against.
For people who don't know, Antifa is short for anti-fascist, right? Yeah. But it's shortened to be.
So if you're anti-fascist, are you a fascist?
Oh God, I don't know. I guess not, right?
I guess
it's like anti-disestablishmentarianism, right? Because you're against the disestablishment.
But the reason I say that is because a lot of people think that, well, if I'm anti-Antifa, then that means I'm pro-fascist. And it's not necessarily true.
It's making two camps and saying that you can only belong to either one of them, which is, I think, a bit of a narrow approach.
The main thing I don't kind of like about Antifa is they kind of take away from the otherwise peaceful demonstration that Black Lives Matters otherwise engage in, right? Because they use what's known as black bloc tactics, which is using obfuscation of your appearance to get away with committing crimes, right? Engaging in arson, engaging in throwing Molotovs. These are all things that have been happening during the unrest that we're currently seeing. And black bloc tactics means, if you're dressed in black, and now with how it's normal for people to kind of have a face covering as well because of like COVID-19, you can hide committing a crime by just throwing a brick, running away into a crowd of other people who are wearing black, and they won't be able to detect what you've done, right? And and that's what they rely on. And unfortunately, that takes away from groups and takes away from movements that are trying to highlight police brutality, because people who want to actually highlight like actual issues within our social zeitgeist, they're going to be distracted by, oh, look, like this building's on fire, or this person got sucker punched or something at like some while they were eating or some shit like that. This and it ultimately comes down to like people kind of holding their own accountable, and we'll see going forward whether if potentially like if Biden becomes president, will he have a more tougher, because he's said previously that just to quote him
in the debate, he did say that the rioters should be prosecuted, and he said that a couple of times in the debate.
But how?
And he said it prior to the debate.
Yeah. He's even said previously about Portland. He said, "Do I look like a radical socialist with a soft spot for rioters?" I don't know if that was necessarily a sting against like Bernie or something, but he's clearly he's definitely trying to separate himself from what would otherwise be like people who identify as like socialists or Marxists or communists. Or
I think that's also for the public, right? Like, so he doesn't want to be aligned with that side of things.
Generally not.
The general public, it's not on side of, it's not a leftist population, so he doesn't want to, of course, appeal to that side of things.
Well, I don't know if they're not leftists. I just don't think that they're socialists. That's the delineation.
Socialist leftists, I should say.
Like I think most people would probably be like socially socially
liberal.
Left. They're not like economically left, right? Which is what you'd be if you were maybe a socialist, or you identified as like a Marxist or something like that. Sorry, Sam, were you going to say something?
That's all right. I've lost my train of thought.
Oh, sorry, my apologies, man. But yeah,
it's such a juicy topic. That's the problem.
It is juicy. It is juicy.
Yeah, you can keep talking about this.
Oh yeah, sorry, go.
No, I'm just saying that you can keep talking about this. It won't. It will lead from one topic to the next topic.
I was going to say, I also realized that we have 53 subscribers on our channel, which is excellent. I love seeing that number go up. So I really do appreciate you guys supporting us on my
47 subscribers away.
And tell your friends, tell your parents to subscribe.
Yeah.
Guys, you can drive our numbers up. You can do it.
We really appreciate it.
We need to get to 100.
We gotta dox my cat. If you want to get my cat doxed, we need to get up to that 100 number. She can't keep getting away with it.
And I think if we I'm not even saying if, I know that we will eventually. Once we reach that 100 mark, we might even consider bringing in some merch. Very small numbers.
Where you at?
If it's super limited edition, and it will feature our first proposed logo, so you'll have a very exclusive t-shirt.
Who designed it, Samad? Who designed it?
I wonder who designed it.
It's Samad. Samad designed it. It was an excellent design. So keep an eye on it. Again, if you like the content that we make, we really need your support here on Mind Over Matters. So
we're trying to grow this. We're talking about big stuff. And
bing, bong,
you'll
bang,
see.
Subscribe, bell icon, all that good stuff. But yeah, I guess we'll move over to topic number 5, which was about climate change. I kind of found both of these people had kind of nothing.
I don't want to interrupt you, but Ali's asked a really good question here.
Oh yeah.
So if you're socially liberal and you're Muslim, are you allowed to support gay marriage?
Where did he say that?
If you're socially, yeah, I didn't get that. Wait, let me just refresh the page.
Yeah, I'm literally doing the same thing. I still can't see it. Where are you getting this question from?
Yeah, where are you getting this?
Did he message you that in private?
Yeah, he messaged you this in private. Yeah. How do you know this? Something that he
all right, so let's assume Ali said this.
Oh, yeah. Why are you putting Ali on blast like this, mate?
Speaking of Spotify, Simon, what are we doing about Spotify? Because I've got a lot of friends who are talking about getting our podcast onto Spotify. What can we do for our viewers?
If we make it to 100 guys, we're all over Spotify, right?
Yeah, Joe Rogan, watch out, Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, we're coming for you, man.
We're coming for you, Joe. Me and my monkey army, we're coming for you, Joe. But no, yeah, we will definitely look into Spotify, because I definitely know, like, unless you have like a YouTube Premium, you can't just like listen to this in the background. So yeah, we'll definitely look into trying to get this up on Spotify too. I don't know we'll look at the logistics for it. But yeah, what was Ali's question?
Ali's question. I don't know if you guys have this comment, but it's certainly
I don't still, but
so maybe Ali's deleted it. But so if you're socially liberal and you're Muslim, are you allowed to support gay marriage?
Depends. You could like legally support, like from like the land of the law, you could like support it, because it's like, again, it's like what we were saying about like you know how Trump has the ability to, like, call injustices because that's the law, right? It's like, well, if it's the law, you can like support other people doing it. You might not participate in yourself. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's the key thing. Is if you're socially liberal, which I think many people are, and many Muslims are, to be honest, in living in the West.
You'd be surprised,
especially young Muslims, and you're a practicing Muslim, then you don't have to actively support gay marriage, but you also don't really have much of a choice in the matter, because you live in a liberal democracy, and ultimately that's just how the law is, and it allows people to have that freedom. So while you don't have to actively support it, it's just going to be part of the society that you live in.
Yeah, so Ali just clarified, I didn't delete it. It should be there. Yeah, I'm not too sure what's up with the comment. It's not on the replay, but yeah, I hope. Yeah, like again, it ultimately comes down to, like, it's like a lot of things, like in the law, like, you don't necessarily have, like, if you're against people drinking alcohol, you're not gonna go out of your way to drink alcohol, right? Like, that's kind of the basis of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Muslim,
look, during
not gay,
yeah, sorry, sorry, I meant that as like
I mean, look, just since it's a democracy, right? Since it's a democracy, when we had when they had that poll for the gay marriages, it was nationwide here, or was it only in Victoria?
No, it was nationwide.
It was nationwide.
Basically, a mail-in.
Yeah, I remember.
Right?
It was and. In that instance, it really does come down to you, right? Because your fate is really a matter between you and your maker, and how you decide to go about it is really up to you. And even through, if you look at the Constitution, you can oppose something, and opposing it doesn't make you, someone who's doing a disservice to the nation. That's just your opinion. But one thing you have to remember is that you have to respect the decision that's being passed, into the, which then
that ultimately comes.
You have to respect the law, even if you necessarily don't agree with it, because there are a lot of people who don't agree with it.
Well, I mean, one example would be conscription, right? Muhammad Ali, he was a conscientious objector, and he, he didn't think that, America should have gone into Vietnam, and he was kind of ridiculed for it back then, because it was like it's a patriotic thing. We have to go into Vietnam for whatever propaganda reason we've been fed to do, right? And he was, one of the few people that were like, no, I didn't want it. I don't want to go to war, right?
Yeah, and I think everyone has the right to, I guess, like, have a mind of their own. And if their religious beliefs don't allow them, or, say otherwise, to what the law is, or, what the environment says it. And that's okay. Like, you're not going to change your religion based on the land that you live in. But you do have to respect, the land and the law of the land. And you have to abide by it. Of course, if it infringes your religion, that's a different matter. But in this case, this is not something that infringes your religion per se. Like, it's not making an effect on your personal life or your connection with your God. So it's not forcing you to be gay. It's merely giving rights to people who identify, from the LGBTQI plus community, right? And that's pretty much it. Like, I think that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important question, and I think we really need to spend a lot, maybe another episode talking through, because there's a lot of these types of things that that maybe young Muslims living in the West need to navigate through. This is one of those issues,
and they need to understand that
of them.
Yeah,
and I think we need to dedicate an episode to that. So stay tuned for that episode.
Because I do feel
about it if you subscribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's only one way to find out. And make sure you follow us on the Instagram page.
Yeah.
Make sure you do that.
Again, ask us questions, on our Instagram, leave us comments here on our video. Let us know what matters are on your mind, because we're more than happy to try and navigate them, and we'll make shows around them. Well, we'll try to.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll talk about the stuff that's on your mind
ourselves through those, treacherous terrain that we find ourselves. So we'll work
it's a very
together.
tricky one. It's a tricky one, because I feel like a lot of Muslims really struggle with ideology and understanding the current environment, and it's easy to get lost in the mix of things, because it's everyone's talking about different things, and you find very polarizing comments coming from both sides of the camps, and you really don't find
dude bros who use the far left talking points, and then you've got active Muslim activists who use talking points from the far right talking points, the dude bros, and the Muslim activists who use talking points from the far left, and there could be implications to doing that, but
I think we're already seeing some of that.
Understand and navigate.
Yeah.
I mean, and
at
again,
the end of the day, it's a very personal thing, right? Like, I don't think there will ever be a consensus when it comes to this. And I think what we will try to achieve here is how we think, or how we, what we think is probably the right course, or a suggestive course of navigating these waters. Because
well, I was just going to say, and the only way that we can do it is by having a discussion and a dialectic with you, the viewer.
Yeah.
So keep tuning in, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. We do appreciate you guys coming.
It does sound like we're about to end the podcast, but I'm sure.
We got
Adam,
more.
You have a whole bunch.
We got more.
We got more. Well,
this is going to be a long one. We actually talked about this. This podcast was going to to be a long one. But stick around. You've seen how good it's been so far.
I mean, this topic is going to be pretty quick. Like, I mentioned it was about climate change. Biden announced a $2 trillion plan to combat climate change at the moment.
Whoa, hold on. No, that's not what he did. It's not a $2 trillion
$2 trillion. It's bigger than that.
No.
Bigger?
No. So the Green New Deal is a $2 trillion plan, but that's not his plan. And he kept
no, correct.
So
but that's what I'm saying.
The deal is not the deal that he's backed. His Biden deal is a much more conservative one.
I have it linked in our in our thing. That
bring it up.
Biden announced. Well, Biden announced $2 trillion climate plan. That was in August 11, 2020. So that's the thing. That's the thing. I do remember. The thing that Trump was saying during that debate was, no, it's not going to cost this amount. It's going to actually cost 90 to 100 $100 trillion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So
right?
I think that's where the confusion is. So
So
there was a plan by
because he was calling him out.
Cortez. What's her name?
AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Cortez. And she had the original Green New Deal, which was several hundreds of trillions of dollars, and Biden's one is what is it, $2 trillion? And
the thing is, in this debate, Trump pointed out, you're using the basis of the Green New Deal, which Biden said no. But if you go on their website, they specifically say how they are using aspects of the Green New Deal. So again, he does want to distance himself away from the Green New Deal. He wants to distance himself away from like AOC, because again, like her rise in popularity kind of comes from, because she was a big supporter of Bernie, right? So she wanted Bernie to kind of be the nomination for president. I think a lot of people obviously did. But and so subsequently, when Trump was trying to, his tactic was to try and, instead of actually providing a climate change plan, like he was like, well, no, your plan's bad because it's a Green New Deal, right? It's going to cost $100 trillion.
So my question maybe to all of us is, what's wrong with a $2 trillion climate change deal? I think that's great.
I think, well, yeah, you see the $2 trillion number,
it's problematic, yeah.
Well, no, not. Well, yeah,
it's not
exactly.
High enough, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what.
And the thing, but my problem is when it comes to implementing like climate solutions, I usually see it being a bit of a money sink as opposed to actually seeing real world changes. Obviously, it takes time, right? It takes time to try and implement measures such as investing in renewable energy. I wish we kind of moved towards like nuclear energy, like in the West, but obviously because of like, like the perspective of like nuclear energy from like, Fukushima and all that kind of stuff. Like, we have kind of moved away from nuclear energy, but like, even though it's like the direction we should go to, but, if we come up with a plan, like a comprehensive plan that can guarantee, the changes that they're trying to, elicit, I'd be all for it. But like time and time again, like I see people like propping up these plans that are supposed to be like, oh, this is gonna be revolutionary. It's only gonna cost X or Y, and then it doesn't usually come into fruition. In any.
Look, you also have to remember the oil and gas industry is not gonna, they're not gonna let this one slide. They're gonna put up a real serious and nasty fight to stay relevant in this environment. And I really don't see anything happening, especially with the I would say a right-wing government. I really don't see that happening.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Trump didn't even say anything.
Trump did say something. I don't know if you remember. He went on to say that, he did indicate. So he, as you would know, surprise, surprise, he never says anything that's to the point. He always kind of talks about how he's got the bestest or the great. Yeah, he deflects and he talks a lot of fluff, right? He's an entertainer at the end of the day. And one thing that he did bring up was in hidden words, he was talking about how he still wants to support the businesses, and what the businesses he was referring to is, of course, the oil and the gas and the coal industry, all those three. He's not really going to go in the renewable side of things.
Let me put this into perspective. The US stimulus package, both the first one and the second one that's about to be announced, is going to cost the United States $2 trillion just for these stimulus packages. By the end of COVID-19, they'll probably would have spent close to 4 or 5 trillion.
Just like that.
Just like that. So, and that's in stimulus alone. And that's not in the fact, the interest payments that taking that enormous amount of the
money.
Trillions of dollars of loans that they need to pay back. So changing the economy to renewables and changing the energy source will create innovation, will create new jobs, will create new sectors. It'll create new tax revenue streams for the government. So I think it's a great idea, and I think rather than fight the traditional hydrocarbon industry, it's to maybe incentivize them to move into renewables, right? And
well, I mean, we were going to have like electric cars like a decade before or something like that, like a couple of decades
they've been delayed.
Ago. Yeah,
do you remember?
They were suppressed. That's the thing.
Yeah, they were suppressed, and including they even used platforms like Top Gear to trash electric cars, and I still remember this because I watched. Yeah, they trashed them to the point to make them look almost silly. And look, I'm pretty sure like most people like the sound of an engine, right? Like when it revs, but we also have to think about the future because
no, cargo vroom,
vroom, yeah, let's burn everything down because the car goes vroom vroom. We can't think like this for too long because if not our children, then most likely our grandchildren will face something that we can't even comprehend.
So my question would be, why do the Republicans continuously resist any policy or package or initiative around creating renewable or creating a new economy around renewables? They continue.
Maybe they have heavy investments. Maybe they have big ties.
Because they're tied to the legacy.
It comes with being conservative, right? Like they want the establishment, and the establishment is the establishment energy providers, right? Not your electric cars, not your hydro energy, not your solars, not your
startups, not your inventors. That's not a priority. It's that established industry which generates big money. They really don't care about the future to that extent. Like for them, it's always a balance sheet. They look at, like for example, he talked about the wildfires, and he was talking about how there's there's older trees that are scattered throughout the forest and the jungles, and they're the ones that catch fire. He's right, but then that's part of the natural process, because those trees do break down, and there are sometimes fires, but it's part of that natural cycle. But what's happening now with these gender reveals and man-made fires is that this thing gets out of control. Like, what do you expect? A forest is made out of trees, so there's fuel anyway.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like in California in particular, I know that they did
the tree that you were telling me about,
the tree.
There's
that, but then there's also the fact that we exported a lot of our Australian trees to California, and that they like to light up and go on fire, so that hasn't helped. But I meant more of things about like dead trees and stuff. Like I know like in California they did put in, I think in like North or South California, I forget, but essentially hazard removal, right? Like removal of dead trees and stuff.
He did bring this up.
That has to
be.
He
did bring it up in the debate.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's kind of something that is like a state thing. The states have to kind of do that. Trump can't take credit for why aren't they doing it? Well, I mean, maybe they should, but that's not what people are asking for. People are, when they think about climate change, or when they think about renewable energies, that's more about things in the future, right? What can we do to invest long term in the viability of the planet?
I think it goes deeper than that, but because I think we need renewable energy. We need these new sources of energy that are far more efficient than burning rocket fuel or whatever, right? Like whichever oil, whichever natural resource you want to talk about, to expand our reach in the space.
Race.
It's not. We're not going to be able to carry.
Get us to.
It's not going to get us that far. I mean, it hasn't gotten us that far. With the only. The only body that we've ever been to besides is Moon, right? Like we haven't been anywhere. No man has landed anywhere else, right?
Well, we're working on getting to Mars, man. That's going to be our terraforming.
We are working on it, but I think that's still far away, and I think the terraforming project will only be successful if we're able to use renewable energy. And think about it, like if you were to set up cities on or colonies on Mars, do you really think you're going to ship out coal and gas and oil? No, you're going to use renewable. You're going to use
to be fair, they'll probably mine what's on the planet first. They'll probably mine what's on the
ship out some coal.
Yeah, they'll probably mine what's on the planet.
Good old coal.
We're doing like a green to burn some coal.
Yeah, burn some coal, mate. But yeah, any other final comments about climate change before we move on to the final topic?
The
final juicy topic.
I think we should talk about. We should also mention the clock that's been displayed in what's it called, the Times Square, that displays there's going to be an environmental change, an irreversible environmental change, if nothing is done about global warming. And I think it's set for 7 years from now on.
What is this clock? What is this clock about?
I'll link it to you. I think I need to look into it more, but I find it very fascinating.
For a second, I thought you meant the doomsday clock. The clock
it almost looks like a doomsday clock.
Okay, I see.
The ticking time clock, and it says that after this particular time frame, of course, it's there's science backing it, and a lot of factors come into it to play. But it says that if we don't do something within this time frame, something's going to happen that's going to impact our lives. If you look around, COVID gave us I would say a glimpse of what it would be like if something was to happen to the environment. Because for example, if something was to affect the air that we breathe, or the water that we drink, you can only imagine, the life that we live right now won't be the same.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. And how we feel so restricted, and so we have to look after our environment, because the more we move away from this, the more diseases you will see coming into the mix, because it's almost like a byproduct, in my opinion. And you will see new things popping up. You will see new pandemics. Well, I mean, I think it's almost like it's multi-pronged. Like, it's not just about energy. It's not just about one thing or another. There's a lot of things that will happen all together, and it will impact our day-to-day lives. So, we all got to do our parts in this, I think.
Yeah, looking into sustainable.
Yeah, we can't rally behind clean coal. There's no such thing as clean coal.
Exactly. It's not.
Washing it under the tap. It doesn't make it clean.
Yeah, it's not like Australia has been very pro what is it, like, renewable energy either. Like, I'm pretty sure like they destroy a Aboriginal like heritage site or something in or something. There
is something going on at
like something recently, like some kind of ancient like Aboriginal like area to mine coal, and they were like,
oopsie. Sorry.
I think we do that quite a lot, though. It's not the first time.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's probably true too. I guess to kind of go into the final topic, and it was about election integrity. And this topic was specifically about, like, accepting the results. And this is a little bit about what Ali was and Heba were talking about earlier in the chat about transfer of power. And Biden, I think he said, like, yep, I will. Like, he was pretty straight. He was pretty succinct with what he said. And I think Trump, on the other hand, was talking about the problems with election integrity, and how, well, with all these mail-in votes and all these mail-in ballots, like, it's going to prolong the election period, and it's going to, and I technically agree, because the thing is, at least according to the primary elections that were done for the Democrats earlier this year, New York, for example, had to wait like beyond 6 weeks in order to get a result for their primary election, because they were all still shifting through mail-in ballots. This is the first election where, well, that mass mail-in ballots are going to be used, right? Like, because they usually like represent a portion, like a smaller portion, because there's two types, because it keeps getting conflated, like online. There's like absentee ballots and what is also known as like universal mail-in ballots, right? Absentee ballots is like kind of what we do here, right? I don't know. Have you guys ever done a absentee, or I don't know what it's called in Australia? Have you guys done one before?
Yeah.
You've done it before? Yeah. I haven't. Is it an easy thing to do? Like, you just request it?
Yeah. They just give you like a massive, you
go
online, you request it.
Wait, Simon, can you say something?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, okay, yeah, no, sorry. I thought you sounded a bit soft, but sorry. Sorry, Samad, as you were saying. I've never done one before.
Requested, it comes in, it just looks like a normal ballot paper.
You see, I'm an idiot, and I wait in line, right? Like, I have to wait in line like a sucker, right? That's what I do, right? Whereas I could have
trying to keep it old school. You're trying to.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we don't have any elections coming up anytime soon, right?
I think we've got the council stuff.
No one submits council.
No one cares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so tell that to all the uncles. Tell that to all the uncles trying to run for the council.
I know. Every Tom, Dick, and Chucky is running for that.
But yeah, like, so that was a situation that was in New York alone, and we're going to have more. And the other is universal mail-in ballots, and these are essentially, if you are on the electoral roll, you will be sent out a mail-in ballot that you can fill out. Now, it's this that people are saying that, oh, well, this is what's the problem with universal mail-in ballots and not necessarily absentee ballots, because that's something that you have to request from the government, whereas there's plenty of people who are on the electoral roll who, they're not going to vote, or they're dead, that's like an example of like, people who are still on the electoral roll. They'll be sent mail, people receiving mail at addresses that for people who don't live there, that those are instances that are happening too. And I think this is the particular area where, people are kind of talking about in terms of election integrity. There was a bipartisan report commissioned by the former US President Jimmy Carter that basically found that absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and that vote by mail is, quote, likely to increase the risks of fraud and of contested elections. And the last particular area is where I'd like to focus in, because it all kind of goes back to the Supreme Court and how people are saying that,
we're going full circle.
Full circle. It's like I planned this a little bit. I do a little bit of planning for the show, a little bit. And, I think that's probably going to be the big thing that will happen this election. We're going to get heaps of people are voting in by mail. It's like by a large amount, because again, people, there are going to be heaps of people who are going to go to the polls, and they're probably all going to get sick. Like, let's face it, because they're going there. There's going to
be a lot of clusters for sure.
Yeah, but there's going to be a lot more people who are voting by mail as well, and there is a lot of cases of people's vote ballots being rejected for a plethora of different reasons, such as not having a signature on it, not having your signature being matching with what's on the system, if your mail gets lost, it doesn't get counted, right? Like there's a lot of areas of failure.
What about USPS? Wasn't Trump trying to I wouldn't say defund, but cut funding?
Well, you see, here's the problem. I remember seeing that too, but the
USPS, because that was a big thing. It wasn't just like coming through one or two channels. There were a lot of people were talking about that for a while. What's happening with that?
That fizzled out because it wasn't true.
Yeah, because they actually he gave the USPS funding, like coronavirus funding as well, right? Like,
okay.
Yeah, I think it was like maybe like 1 point something billion. I'd have to look it up.
Interesting.
But yeah, like again, but this is the thing. Like the USPS is like, it's kind of a running meme like in America. Like, you kind of get your mail like sometimes when you get it, right? Like, you might as well like get something from, you're more reliable, maybe getting something like FedEx from Amazon, or something delivered by a drone.
I think the second stimulus package, which is currently going through the House, is adding additional funding to USPS as well.
Oh, okay. I see.
Okay, interesting.
And because the funding that Trump has allocated is still not enough, because we're talking about a nationwide mail-in ballot, and that's still not enough funding. So there will be more funding in this round of stimulus. Funding.
So
there's one more thing that I want to bring up. And it kind of links back to when Trump was asked to condemn the white supremacists. He did mention that he urged his supporters to go and monitor these polling stations to see if there's anything fishy going on. And I think, what do you guys think about that? Because I find that kind of sus. I feel like it's kind of like giving unofficial authority to these people to go out there and try to be more nosy.
To hold on to power. There's no question about that. He wants to get his supporters to question everything that happens,
riled up,
and get them riled up, and basically have them monitor the elections, and then basically create a whole bunch of confusion, confuse the country, and
he's divided the country. I think better than anyone else ever has.
Absolutely, I think if you go back 4 years ago, was America as divided as it is today? Absolutely not.
Maybe under the covers, but I feel like it's all come out now.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely has becoming, over the last 2 decades, it's becoming more polarizing in the US. But
I think people have become. Sorry, go.
I mean, I think it's certainly accelerated.
The two camps are becoming very prominent. I feel like
it's certainly accelerated. He's done very little to unite the different groups, and I think he's done that on purpose.
I think people have become more partisan, not necessarily that like like for example, like we've had issues with like all that we've been seeing with like race relations like under Obama. Like Black Lives Matter didn't start under Trump. It started under Obama, right? Like these kind of problems, and to be fair, like problems within the African American community being disproportionately treated poorly by authority has been something that's been within American
older than Obama.
Yeah, it's like older than Obama. So like so when I mentioned that, I just mean that like it's something that's been there on the surface.
Absolutely. I think over the last 2 decades.
Right. Just for clarification for the audience.
I completely agree with you. And over the last 2 decades, certainly that's happened in the United States. People are becoming more polarized, more partisan. Trump hasn't helped that, and if anything, it's accelerated under Trump. And I think the responsibility of a president is to try and unite the country.
I mean, he's singled out some big groups, right? Like he singled out the Muslims. If you remember, by saying that Islam is, Islam is gonna, he pretty much declared Islam as an enemy, right? Like at one stage by saying that.
Did he?
Yeah, dude. Like he went after.
He did it in more of a question: is Islam?
Did he say is Islam? He left it for the viewer to answer.
It always ends with a question. There's something wrong. I mean, I guess should look into it.
But I guess just to kind of circle back to the election integrity.
I mean, that's all it takes, right? Like that's all it takes. That's my point. That's all it takes for the crowd that he's appealing to. That's all it takes, because they're already thinking about that. And now your president is saying the same thing, and they take it as a hint, right? Like it's almost suggestive, if anything else. Like
suggestive to like do something, or like
no, not to look. It can do something. I mean, you watched the episode, the latest episode of
I don't necessarily agree with how the boys presented that.
I know it was an extreme end.
Yeah.
Right, but it has incited crimes. Right, like based on those kind of statement in the recent times.
Again, I don't want to spoil the boys, because you need to watch it, Simon.
You need to watch it, bro.
I was really surprised. Again,
I'm totally up to date.
What, season 2?
Yeah, I've watched it all.
Oh, okay. Well, then why aren't you on the Mind Under Matter show talking about it, mate? I'm disappointed, mate. Do you guys want to hear?
What did you think of the last episode? What did you think of the?
I don't know.
Narrative
going to spoil it for others.
I mean, I'm just asking about your thoughts.
No.
In general, overall, like how do you find this?
I think let's go back to the trailer.
Yeah. This isn't Mind Under Matters. This is Mind Under Matters. Although check us out on Fridays, because we will hopefully have a show for you then. But I was just saying, like in regards to the election integrity and with mail-in voting, like, do you guys think that we're gonna find the result at the usual time that we usually do, or do you think it's going to be?
No. It's look, there's a massive logistical challenge to get. What is it? Americans, there's 360 million people in the United States. I don't know how many vote. There could be like 100 million people that vote.
I think like a third generally.
Yeah, like 120, 130 million people will vote. If anything, maybe a lot of people will just find it inconvenient to send in mailing ballots.
I mean, you think of states like Iowa.
You might actually even get only 70 million, 80 million people voting this year.
That's my concern.
There's so many different challenges. Like there's a certain number of like places that you submit those ballots. So there's collection areas, and there's only X number of them. So people have to drive a fair way to submit their ballots. Or use snail mail, which might actually get to to the counting stations 3 weeks after the elections are finished.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. That's the thing, right? Like they're
gonna have to delay that process, right? Like
here's the thing, right? Like if, like for example, like when they're supposed to like count all the votes by, right? There's like a particular date. But if they want to kind of extend the period and be like, because usually what would happen is if there's any votes that come in after that, like mail-in votes that come after that, usually it's, well, we don't count them. They don't get counted, right? And imagine like how much that kind of displaces a lot of people who would otherwise not be able to vote. Because again, a lot of minorities.
I'm going to make a prediction here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to predict who's going to win. I'm going to do that maybe in the next show or
the
next debate.
Ooh.
After the next debate.
Yeah. Third debate or second debate?
I mean, I thought Trump was going to win this one.
I'll make my prediction. You guys already know what I think it is, but I'm not going to share it with our audience just yet. But the prediction I'm going to make today is I think it'll be another similar to what happened with Bush versus Gore. It'll go to the
yeah.
Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will make the decision. And I just think it's impossible to get the vote counting absolutely correct. And I think both parties will ultimately appeal to the Supreme Court. I think Trump will try and do what he usually does. He'll try and find a way to weasel out of it. And I think Biden will then take it to the Supreme Court the same way Gore took it to the Supreme Court. And I think the Supreme Court will make the decision. And again, I have full confidence in the United States Supreme Court, even with a very conservative majority of that Supreme Court. But I think they'll lean towards if it goes to the Supreme Court, I think they'll give it to Trump because he's the incumbent.
The incumbent president generally has historically has the advantage when it comes to elections. But I'm glad that you mentioned Gore, because that's exactly who came to mind to me when it came to vote counting, right? Because that was a big thing back in the day.
It was a massive swing state, and that really the numbers were basically in a difference between a double-digit numbers. There was that. That's how low it got to. Actually, I think it was 2 votes. Two electoral college votes is what distinguished between Gore and Bush. And then Gore was about to concede, and then they basically said, no, actually, there needs to be a recount in Florida. So the recount had started, and then Gore took it to the Supreme Court before the recount finished, and the Supreme Court said, well, no, there'll be no recount, so it goes to Bush. So the Supreme Court effectively made the decision who will be the president of the United States. And I think the exact same thing will happen in this case.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. With what I was saying, and the examples that I mentioned, earlier, for example, California rejecting 100,000 plus mail-in ballots and stuff like that. That can change the difference. That's the difference between people winning an election, right, or winning a certain area, or a particular battleground state or swing state in America. So I'm concerned about what it would mean going forward, especially with all these mail-in votes.
It could take 60 days to get the counting done, to be honest.
It took 6 weeks in just New York alone for their primary. So I can imagine it taking much longer when you're counting 120 million votes, and then there might be some kind of precedent, let's say Biden, or be all these mail-in votes, they were rejected, maybe we should count them, right? And then the Supreme Court might make the judgment of, do we count them, do we not count them, things like that, and that would potentially set a precedent for local elections or state elections.
Yeah. And so again, I don't want to get into predictions about who's going to win, but I think the 2 outcomes, obviously, one is the election comes really close, right, between Biden and Trump, in which case, even if Biden wins marginally, if it goes to the Supreme Court, so if it's only a variance of 2 or 3 electoral college votes in a swing state, it might go to the Supreme Court, and then Trump will win. And if it's Biden, or the alternative is Biden wins by a landslide, and that's the only way Biden wins. It has to be by a large margin. So it doesn't. There's no scope to even take it to Supreme Court.
Yeah.
One more question, because we're talking about the voting. Last time the elections happened, it was 43% of the population that decided not to vote at all, and that amounted for, I think, 100 million people. Of course, that's a huge number. What do you guys think about in terms of that split? So it was, I think, so I'm looking at the numbers from the Washington Post. It was 60.5 million who voted for Clinton, and it was 60 million who voted for Trump.
Clinton's running mate?
Someone forgettable.
See, no one remembers.
No one cares about the running mates. I even forget Pence sometimes, mate. Who is this guy?
No one cares.
And 6.2 voted for someone else, and 100 million, which is a huge number, decided not to vote for anyone. And I think, I think we talked about that's a deciding factor. And I think again, that will really be impacted this time around because of the situation and the conditions everyone's in. I think if the opposition really wants to take this, take this seriously, they will really have to urge their supporters.
Well, I mean, look, the problem in America is that, voting is optional, right? So they have heaps of campaigns like, to try and get people vote. Remember Rock the Vote? Remember Rock the Vote, Simon? When they had wasn't that P. Diddy's thing to get people all to vote, right? And they're having the same thing now.
Can you try and imagine 18 to 25-year-olds trying to submit a mail-in ballot?
Oh,
using the mail?
They'll probably use it to roll a blunt. If anything.
God damn. But
I don't even think they know where one of those
like
places
whatever,
are
dude. Whatever, dude.
Like, oh yeah. I thought it was a phone booth, like
yeah.
Look, that's the problem.
I don't get paid to do this.
A lot of people feel like disenfranchised about voting, right? Like, and that isn't just like this whole debate, right? Putting off people from voting at all, but like just in general, like a lot of people sometimes feel that their votes don't matter, right? Like, oh, it's always going to be this candidate or X or Y. In the end, like voting in America, like sets the precedent of how politics work around the world. That's why we care about it, right?
Yeah, that's why we're talking about it for the past couple of hours.
Over 2 hours.
Over 2 hours. Yeah. Well, but yeah, like I think that means it's a pretty good time to wrap up, huh, guys?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I really enjoyed today's show. And I hope our viewers and listeners did as well. It is about American politics, and we did talk about some dry, topics like the Supreme Court nomination and Roe versus Wade. But I hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope we all learned something today. I did. I know I did, and we look forward to next week's show, which I'm sure by then is there going to be a VP debate between now and next week's show?
I think there is, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't personally care too much about it. Like, I never watch the VP stuff. But hey, look, if there's some cool highlights or some funny stuff, like Carmelo saying something
screws this up, I mean, we'll talk about something.
Yeah. It's going to be in the news anyways, right?
But tell us what you want us to talk about next week. Send us your comments on IG. Give us your suggestions.
You can inbox us. You can comment.
Yeah, subscribe.
Yeah, like, subscribe.
Tell your friends, tell your parents.
Yeah. Like it's typical to see like the subscription number go up because again it means that people are liking the content that we produce, and that makes me feel good. And it will if you subscribe right now, it helps Tak feel better from his injury. I'm just putting it out there. He will feel better. He he just sent me a message. He said, "Hey, I want you guys to like, subscribe, and put that bell icon."
Every like, every subscribe, every bell icon.
Everyone.
One healing power to
one healing power, exactly. And also we have the Mind Under Matter show on Friday. Apologies for not having the show last week. Again, Tak got injured, and so we decided to just kind of delay the show until this Friday. So if he's feeling better, hopefully he can come on. So come check us out. And I guess till next week, catch you later.
Let it take